Into a disagreement, and this is over funding for Resource Generation's Boikarabelo mine, which has led to a fight for control of the company. I'm joined by Warren Dick, editor at mineweb.com for more. Warren, it sounds like it's a story of the board versus the debt club. Give us a sense of who's the debt club, who makes up this group, and what's the key issue between them and the board?
Okay, so this is all a bit strange, but basically what happens is the company's got this Boikarabelo coal mine in the Waterberg. They want to develop it. It's going to cost around $400 to $500 million to develop. And the way it was explained to me is that Altius were asked to put together the debt part of the funding that was required for this project. And Rob Lowe and his team at Altius did that by putting together a consortium of South African banks. As well as, so we've got HSBC, we've got Rand Merchant Bank, then we have, they're doing the senior portion of the debt. Then there's a commodity trading company called Noble, which are listed in Hong Kong, which are also a shareholder, as is Altius, that is arranging this whole package. And then for some of what they call the mezzanine financing of the deal, they went to the IDC and the PIC, who is also a shareholder. So it's pretty much, as I understand it, the management team is at odds with the so-called debt club, but the debt club owns, I think, roughly over a quarter of the company's shares. So
what does the debt club want that the management team is not willing to give?
It's been very hard to try and figure out where this all started going south, because as far as I understood it, up until early last month, Noble, which owns 13% of the company and wanted to supply some of the debt, was happy with the way things were going, but they wanted to make an appointment to the board because they weren't represented as a shareholder on the board. And from then, that's where it's kind of all unraveled. And pretty much, I think, what the debt club, there's obviously been a breakdown in the relationship between the management and the shareholders and this so-called debt club. What that actual reason is, I'm not sure. I could speculate and say, while the debt club were trying to put this package to fund the project together, the management team obviously didn't like the influence or the way it was going and decided then to try and secure funding from someone else. And that's perhaps where this breakdown in the relationship has got to.
Do you think there's issues with the call for representation on the board? Because surely if the Noble Group did get representation, they might be able to influence any other funding packages that the board might be looking at.
They would be able to, yes. But of course, the funding in terms of this project would have to go to shareholders for a vote. But they own 13% of the company already. Altius owns 10%, so that's 23% as I worked it out. And then the PIC is also a big shareholder. I haven't quite figured out what the PIC's shareholding as of the total is, because the company's listed in Australia and on the JSE.
And what's the repercussions should these voices not find each other? What is the repercussions for this particular mine? Is it likely going to have to be shelved? What is the long-term play here?
Well, I think it's going to come down to a proxy vote. So obviously what has happened is Altius has proposed to replace the entire board. They've put forward 6 names that they would like to see on the board, 4 of which are South African individuals, 2 of which are Australian. And they will then take that to a vote at a special general meeting of the shareholders in November, which will take place, as I understand it, in Sydney, because most of the shares are listed on the ASX. And should they be successful there, they will then obviously have control of the company and then be able to put through, I guess, the package if shareholders vote for it. So long term, it's come down to a struggle between who keeps control of the company, whether it's the management that's currently in place, or whether Altius and its partners can force change on the company.
And how does this play out on the shareholder at the end of the day? How are they impacted by this seemingly disconnect between all these players?
Well, it's very difficult to say that and to figure out who's in the right and who's in the wrong and what's best for shareholders. I think the main point is, from our side, is that the management team have gone and subsequent to, in fact, on Friday last week, the company put out a statement accusing the PIC of wrongdoing. So it's effectively declaring war with a very big portion of its shareholders and a very big portion of the debt funders who are South African. So obviously as a coal mine, they're going to rely on Transnet. They're going to rely on Eskom to buy a lot of the domestic coal. They're now at loggerheads with the PIC. They're at loggerheads with potential South African funders who can provide the funding in rands to put this project into place. So I think from a shareholder's perspective, it's quite worrying. You'd want to see things proceeding smoothly, but these disagreements do happen, and shareholders are going to have to vote for who they want to run the company.
Disagreements do happen, and of course in this particular instance it sounds like it's off-take agreements and funding all at stake. A very big thank you to Warren Dick, editor of MineWeb.com.